If you look at a map of many of the world's highest capacity airports like Atlanta, Singapore, or London Heathrow, you will notice a common pattern. The runways are laid out as perfectly straight parallel lines. This helps airport handle more separate runway movements at the same time. But look at Ninoy Aquino International Airport in Manila, the main gateway to the Philippines. Its two runways do not run parallel. They cross each other, creating a giant X. That giant X shapes everything about how NAIA operates. Because the runways cross, one aircraft movement can limit what can safely happen on the other runway. For years, travelers flying in and out of Manila have faced long delays, packed terminal gates, and crowded baggage claims. It is easy to look at this and blame bad management or poor maintenance. But the truth is, NAIA is not struggling just because of one broken thing. It struggles because the airport has very little room left to expand. NAIA was built for a smaller era. Its layout makes heavy traffic difficult to avoid. And to understand how Manila ended up trapped by its own airport, you have to look at how it was built in the first place. NAIA was not originally built to be a massive airport for a growing city. It started out near an old military airfield and commercial flights moved there in 1948. By the 1970s, the government locked in the airport's layout. It was squeezed into a tight 800-hectare space now surrounded by the dense neighborhoods of Pasay and Parañaque. As the city grew around it and airlines expanded, the government didn't build a brand new airport. The terminals were just added piece by piece onto the exact same land. Terminal 2 opened in 1999 and Terminal 3 eventually followed. Today, NAIA has 4 separate passenger terminals scattered across the airfield. On paper, this sounds like an upgrade, but official documents show NAIA was only built to handle about 33.2 million passengers a year. In 2019, it was forced to process almost 48 million. By 2024, published airport statistics put that number above 50 million. The airport is trying to squeeze modern-day traffic through a space designed for a much smaller era. And that brings us back to the problem of that giant X. Because the two runways cross each other, they limit the number of aircraft movements NAIA can safely handle. Official data shows NAIA operates at around 40 to 42 aircraft movements per hour, with plans to push that to 48 under the new private operators. Because there is almost no extra room during peak hours, the whole airport operates right at its limit. If one plane has a mechanical issue or a sudden storm delays a landing, the disruption instantly messes up the entire day's schedule. And the traffic jam doesn't stop at the runway. The airport has limited aircraft parking, light space to maneuver, and not enough gates. When planes can't quickly exit the runway, park, unload, and turn around, the entire system slows to a crawl. But the runway is only the first problem. Even after a plane lands, passengers face another issue: scattered terminals, heavy traffic, and no direct train line to the city. Because NAIA's 4 terminals are completely separate buildings, there is no quick way to transfer between them inside the airport. If you land at Terminal 1 and need to catch a domestic flight out of Terminal 4, you can't just walk to your next gate. In many cases, you have to collect your bags, leave the airports entirely, and catch a shuttle or a taxi. That means your airport transfer is completely at the mercy of Manila's street traffic. Government-backed studies have shown that access around NAIA is a major constraint. And official PPP documents note that NAIA still relies heavily on road access, with direct rail links still under construction or proposed. Make a mistake and go to the wrong terminal and the traffic could make you miss your flight. Plus, NAIA still does not have a direct train line connected to its terminals, leaving everyone stuck on those crowded roads. The runways limit the number of flights, the roads limit the passengers. So if these limits were so obvious, why did NAIA fall so far behind? A big part of the answer is years of legal and political delays. For example, Terminal 3 was almost finished in the early 2000s, But massive legal disputes froze the project. It only opened partially in 2008 and didn't reach full operations until 2014. NAIA lost an entire decade of progress while passenger demand just kept climbing. The problem is that transport planners saw this coming. Years ago, studies warned that NAIA was rapidly running out of space. The proposed strategy was clear: build up nearby airfields and prepare a new Manila airport before NAIA was completely overwhelmed. Instead, the government relied on short-term fixes. They shifted airlines around and squeezed every inch of space out of the existing site. Eventually, the system couldn't keep up. On New Year's Day 2023, an air traffic control failure disrupted more than 280 flights, affecting over 56,000 passengers. Months later, NAIA again faced power-related disruptions that affected operations. The core issue was simple. Small fixes could ease the pressures, but they could not change NAIA's basic physical limits. The runways still crossed, the city still surrounded the site, and the terminals were still scattered. Faced with an airport it could no longer manage efficiently, the government turned to privatization. In 2024, a private group led by San Miguel took over operations under a 15-year contract. But it is important to understand what this deal is and what it isn't. The Philippine government still owns the airport. The private operator is just running and upgrading it. And privatization didn't give one group total control. Private money is running the terminals and fixing the tarmac. But separate government agencies still control air traffic, customs, immigration, and broader transport policy. The new operators have big goals: expand the terminal capacity to 62 million passengers and push aircraft movements to 48 per hour. And they can absolutely fix a lot of daily frustrations, like upgrading baggage systems, fixing electrical grids, and making terminals cleaner and faster. Privatization can improve the airport, but it can't change the land it sits on. What private money can't do is remove the physical limits of the site itself. They can't move the dense neighborhoods of Pasay, and they can't change the fact that the two runways cross each other. Ultimately, to truly fix the problem, the heavy traffic has to be shared across a wider network. This includes the expanded Clark International Airport to the north and the massive new Manila International Airport being built in Bulacan. NAIA can be cleaned, repaired, reorganized, and even upgraded, but it can't escape its own footprint. Manila does not just need a better airport terminal, it needs an airport system.